After coming off a spectacular win at the Sugar Bowl, expectations are through the roof for U of L's upcoming season. So since we have the beat writer for the Courier-Journal in the house, we want to get his take on the 2013 season. Let's start out with a topic that's still unfolding. Assistant coach Clint Hurtt's notice of allegations from the NCAA. CL, they've seemed like they've really stood by Clint throughout this whole process. Do you expect him to be on the sidelines next fall?
It's really hard to tell because we haven't seen the actual notice of allegations, and we don't know exactly what the NCAA is accusing him of. I do know that Hurtt is going to fight a lot of these charges. He has admittedly before all the notice of allegations came out, he admittedly did take a interest-free loan, I should say, which is against the NCAA rules. But outside of that, we're not totally sure what happened and what he's being charged with. And, moving forward, it's one of those things. You never really know with the NCAA how hard they're going to come down. None of these allegations occurred while Clint Hurtt has been at U of L. So the U of L football program, is safe as far as that is concerned. But he was forthcoming from everybody I've spoken with about this when the NCAA investigators came. He, told the truth, didn't hide anything from them. And so, they're hoping that somehow, maybe will bode well for him.
Did you get the impression, like I did, that Louisville's they've decided, hey, we've got his back until told otherwise?
Yeah, I would say that pretty much sums it up.
Moving on to this year's team, in spring practice, what will you be looking for specifically? They've got a lot back. They're going to be working in some new guys, but what are some of the storylines that you'll be paying attention to this spring?
I think first and foremost is just how hungry they'll be. I mean, they're coming off arguably the biggest win in program history. They have everybody back. There's a feeling that, kind of like they know they're going to be good. So how does that translate in the spring? I mean, do they, is Strong and his staff going to have to keep on them every day to kind of do what they're supposed to do? Or are they going to go in like veterans and guys with higher expectations and a hunger there and still, try and build this program to get to, a higher level? And also just kind of individually, we've seen these guys kind of grow from babies. I mean, from Teddy Bridgewater taking over as a true freshman, starting at quarterback. I mean, what will be the next jump he makes? What will be Devontae Parker's next jump? Will he be that guy who will be out there every down as a receiver and able to do small things as well as make those big plays?
A lot of sports writers believe Teddy's not only a Heisman candidate, but one of the front runners. Where does he fit right now on your list? I mean, is he at the top, near the middle? I mean, how would you rank him right now?
I don't really have a list, but I know he's on it. Right. I think definitely his performance at Rutgers, to me, kind of started it all, playing with, essentially playing with one good arm and one good leg. And then the Florida performance cemented it. I mean, to do that against, one of the top 5 defenses in the nation, that said a lot. So, and I think everybody who was paying attention football-wise saw what he can do. So the schedule that they have next year isn't going to lend for many big moments like that. So I think a lot of it, people are going to look back at that Florida game for Teddy moving forward.
You mentioned the schedule. There's been a lot of talk about it. There's been some whispers here and there about Louisville trying to line up a TV game with a marquee program to maybe get some of the spotlight on Teddy and help their chances. Haven't heard much about that, though, lately. Do you expect that to happen, or are you looking at the schedule probably ending up as is?
I'm looking at the schedule as is. I mean, there's still a chance something can happen, and I know certainly they're making as many inquiries as they can. But at this point, barring somebody else trying to drop, a team from their schedule, I think U of L might be, their schedule might be set for what it is. And maybe you have the hope that, a Rutgers or a South Florida with Willie Taggart in his first year, that somebody in the conference can kind of have some good non-conference wins and emerge as a team that is respected nationally.
Charlie will kind of be in a unique position. Next year, I mean, if they really want to get in the national championship picture, not only do they have to win every game, but do they have to win every game by a pretty good margin? That kind of goes against his system. I mean, he never struck me as a run-up-the-score kind of guy, but will scores and margin of victory be more important this year?
I think it will. I think that factors into Teddy's potential Heisman run as well. I mean, Heisman guys have big numbers. They have gaudy, just ridiculous stats for no reason, you know, in games that are already decided. And I think there's going to have to be a little bit of that, just adding to what Teddy Bridgewater has done and adding to what this team can do in order to make people look nationally look like, wow, this team is really playing up to the expectations.
Defensively, it was a struggle for the Cards last season, although we saw, you know, some flashes of, you know, dominance against a Florida team. Can they make, you know, progression from what we saw in the Sugar Bowl, and who will be some of the keys defensively for them to perform at the level which I think Charlie really expected them to for most of last season?
Yeah, I think with the defense, it's kind of a misnomer that they underperformed. They finished ranked 23 nationally, which is the same that they finished in 2011. Now, you can make the argument that, you know, they allowed 13 more yards per game in 2012 than they did in 2011. So you could make the argument that they weren't as dominant. And early on, we saw with some of the no-huddle teams and teams that really practice tempo that they had some difficulties early. But I think you can make the argument at full strength. They had a lot of guys beat up on the defensive line. And once they got all those guys back, we saw what we expected all year against Florida in that game, how the defense just kind of set the tone for that game. So I think coming into this season, I think they obviously have to replace Adrian Buechele at cornerback. He was by the end of the year kind of like their number one guy at cover corner. I think that will probably be the big thing. I think they're going to be set up front and even at linebackers, especially with James Burgess and Keith Brown having that experience as true freshmen.